Okay, today we're working on some fundamentals, and this is how you get seeds started. Now you can do this on a large scale, like out inside your yard or a big farm, or you can do it on a small balcony. But this is just simple tips and tricks to setting up your own personal garden. Okay, so this is your typical planter. You can use cans, you can use bottles, you can pretty much use anything as long as it has those holes inside the bottom so you don't have root rot, remember? Now, what I like to do is just fill one of these up. Fill it full of dirt, and just make sure the soil's nice and loose because these are young little things and they need to not have to work so hard to break through the surface, okay? So I have all these ready to go, and then this is like a great way to seed like when you're on the balcony, so I'm going to teach you that also. So let's start off with one of the smaller seeds. And smaller seeds, think about it, if they're small, you don't want them to work super crazy to get going. So if I stick my finger all the way down there and put one of those seeds in, it's going to have to fight so hard to get to the top. Now it might get to the top, but more than likely it won't. So what I like to do with something like this is red Russian kale, is I just like to take a little bit, okay? Very simple, just a little bit right there. Take them and just let nature do its work. Just sprinkle it, because what we're mimicking is just plants falling from a pod, little seeds falling from the pod and landing on the soil. And that's all it would need to get going. And just do like that. Just softly, gently push them in. Cover them up a little bit. You can even take a little bit more soil and do like this. And there you go. Now all you have to do is water, 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 especially when they're young. They're going to want to water. And think about all those. There's going to be so much kale inside there, I won't have enough to plant. So I'll be able to trim it back, pick the strongest ones, and then put them in the ground. So there's your red Russian. And guess what? In 4 days, it's going to look like this. Just water, water, water. So rinse and repeat. But remember, the bigger the seed, the little bit more deeper it needs to go. And one of the greatest, niftiest things about having a seed packet is it shows you the depth and the spacing that's required to get the most nutrients to each plant. So with this eggplant, what I'm going to do is I'm going to see the sides of them. They're just a little bit bigger than those red Russians. So what we're going to do is we're going to do it a little bit bigger. Because you got to think about it, they're literally falling off the fruit of the tree or the fruit of the plant and falling on the ground. And usually with things like this, I like to do 2 or 3 in the exact same hole. So for this one, I'm going to give it a little bit more depth. Just a little bit more depth for it. And then what I'll do is I'll put 2 inside each spot. Just drop them in and let nature do the rest. Just imagine them falling off the fruit of the tree like they've gone to full age. And they've decided, you know what? I'm going to keep on going. And why do you plant the same type of seeds? Why can't we put the red Russian with the eggplant? Why can't we just try to mix them up and grow them? Well, it's because if they aren't brothers and sisters, they'll fight. And then they'll end up taking nutrients away from each other. So it's always better to leave them in pairs so they actually grow together rather than fighting each other. So then once you got that, just bury them to their good little amount. And then you just water, sun, water, and love. That's all it is. Sun, water, and love. There you go. There's some eggplants. And you know, you could label them, but I've done it long enough where I recognize it. But I do, if you don't know what the little baby's going to look like, you might get them confused. So just write down on the side of the little plant or eggplant or something like that. Little bit bigger seeds, okra. And you know, my family hails from Kentucky, so it's a personal favorite. Funny thing about okra is it actually arrived, people think it's from the South, it's America and stuff. It's actually from ancient Egypt. But since these are bigger, I'm just going to plant 2 to each pod, okay? And I could actually go down a fair bit with them because they're big, because they have that power inside that little tiny seed to punch through that earth. So put 2 inside, and then what will happen is I can either choose 2 things. Once they pop through the soil, I can pluck out the weaker one, or I can plant them both if they both make it. But that's just an insurance in case one seed just says, you know what, I don't want to do it. So then you always have one easily able to plant. So we're going to make some fried okra and Johnny cakes today. One of my favorite things to do with root vegetables, whether I'm putting them in the ground or I'm just growing them inside a pot, is to really let nature do its work. And I think what we'll do is we'll do radishes, since my wife loves it so much and she's so beautiful. She's the one filming right now, and she's breaking my heart with her gorgeousness. Anyway, sorry, besides the point. I can't even pay attention anymore. She's so beautiful. One of my favorite things to do is take these radishes, and this is a really fun thing because radishes are really cool. You can grow a lot of radishes. They only require 2 inches of space because see how small a radish is? So I can put a ton of radishes inside here and they can grow really close together and I can get a lot of food out of them. And one of the funnest things about them is they grow really, really quick. So you can keep replenishing your radishes. So look at all that. Think about that. Each one of those that's going to be inside this pot is going to grow to be a full-size radish. That's like 5 bushels. I mean, you don't need to go to the grocery anytime soon. You're growing them on your balcony. So what I like to do is space it 2 inches, and I'm not so sure what that is in Australian or the European type, but in America we call it 2 inches. And I just like to do a circular, like a little beautiful little art piece, just a circular little movement all the way around. And you can do this with a straight pot, you can do this with a long pot, or you can do them in rows in your garden. But what we'll do is we'll take 1 seed, because radishes grow so well, and we'll just drop 1 seed in, each one. Each one of those holes will drop a radish in, and all of those will grow. And you can do this with beets, you can do it with carrots, you can do it with turnips, but remember how big a turnip is. So you might get, out of this pot, you might get 8 turnips. Do you know what I mean? But with this, you'll get a ton of these. And the great thing is once they get big, you'll start eating them. And then when you start eating them, they'll get more space. So they'll get bigger and bigger and bigger. So then finally, all I gotta do is just slowly, gently swoop it over. Pat it in. Make sure they all have a nice place to sleep. And you give them big water and they'll start to grow. So that's an easy tip to growing root vegetables, carrots, turnips, beets, anything you want inside a pot. Just do it today, because being prepared and knowing how to grow your own food is really one of the most liberating experiences you can have of your life, because you're free and you can make your own destiny. So thank you for watching Planet. I'm Logan Huffman, and we'll see you soon.